Ready, Mataji.
Yeah, we are live, Mataji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the summary session of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 21. Today we have our Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Mataji, over to you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for kindly arranging and taking care of everything. We'll start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mishwaram Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Veshatharini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And we are continuing our series of the chapter-wise summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we will be covering Canto 3, Chapter 21. I think you all must have heard the previous chapter. In the previous chapter, there was a description of how different classes of beings came into existence, how Brahma performed the secondary creation. So continuing from there, let's see what's happening in chapter 21. Chapter 21 is called The Conversation Between Manu and Kardama. So actually, in the previous chapter, towards the end, we saw that Manu and Shatarupa, they both came into existence by Brahma. Brahma he brought forth Manu and Shatarupa. And Manu and Shatarupa, they decided to increase the progeny of this universe through sexual intercourse. So that's how the very first verse begins. It's Vidura asks. So Vidura uvacha swayam bhuvasya cha manor vamsha paramasammatha katyatham bhagavan yatra maitune naithire praja. Vidura said, the line of Swayambhuva Manu is most esteemed because from Manu, the entire class of Manushya or all the human beings came forth. So Vidura is telling the entire line of Swayambhuva Manu is most esteemed. Parama Sammata. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he says, they're very high class, very, very nice. So Vidura is asking Maitreya, O worshipful sage, I beg you, give me an account of this race whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse. So we all know that Swayambhuva Manu had 5 children. He had 2 sons and 3 daughters. And the 2 sons are Priyavrata and Uttanapada. And because all of you are experts in Bhagavatam, you must be remembering Uttanapada was the father of anybody? Any raised hands, or you can just unmute and take a guess.
Dhruva Maharaj.
Yes. Uttanapada was the father of Dhruva Maharaj, and Priyavrata, we saw in the first canto, of course, in the first canto, that he was the one who divided the world into different islands, the universe into different islands, this Bhumandala. Priyavrata and Uttanapada, the 2 sons. So these two sons, it is mentioned that they ruled over the 7 islands of this world, that is of the earth. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about the different islands. He writes the names of all the continents. And he says that they ruled over this entire place. And how did they rule? They ruled by following all the regulative principles, not like today's kings. And he says, I have heard that the story of Devahuti is very, very worshipable. She was a wonderful, wonderful daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. So Swayambhuva Manu not only had 2 sons, he also had 3 daughters. The 3 daughters were Devahuti, Prasuti, and Akuti. Okay, so he tells the story of Devahuti is indeed very, very celebrated. And he had some more questions. He wanted to know about the progeny of this Devahuti. So he says, Tasyam savai mahayogi yuktayam yoga lakshanai sasarja katita viryam tanme susrushave vada. Vidura very nicely, he inquires from Maitreya that I want to know about the life of Mahayogi. Who's that Mahayogi? That Mahayogi is Kardama Prajapati, who is the husband of Devahuti. And he wants to also know about Yoga Lakshanai, the one who had attained Yoga Lakshana, who is Devahuti. Again, in the commentary, Srila Prabhupada says that her husband was a Mahayogi and she had attained Yoga Lakshana. She was a Yoga Lakshana, meaning she had almost attained perfection in the process of yoga. And he says, you can imagine what kind of progeny they could have brought forth, because both of them were great devotees. They were great yogis. So imagine the different children that they could have brought forth. Thinking about this, Vidura asks Maitreya, tell me about Devahuti. Tell me about the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. I heard she married Kartama Prajapati. And tell me, how many daughters did she have? She has many daughters. She has 9 daughters. And all these 9 daughters, they marry great sages and they bring forth generations of people. So this entire dynasty of Swayambhuva Manu is highly celebrated. And he also asked, not only do I want to know about Devahuti, among the 3 daughters, 1 daughter is Devahuti, right? So he says, not only do I want to know about Devahuti, I also want to know about Akuti and Prasuti. They were the ones who actually married Ruchi and Daksha. So just like how Kardama Prajapati is one of the Prajapatis, similarly, Ruchi and Daksha are also Prajapatis. They married the other 2 daughters, Akuti and Prasuti. So you all know from the 4th canto, which we will soon be saying, that Daksha's wife was Prasuti. If you can brush up your memory of hearing the 4th canto. And of course, Ruchi's wife was Akuti. And Akuti is the mother. And then you have, later, we'll see their children. The Supreme Lord also descends in their family. Just like how Devahuti has the Supreme Lord Kapila as her son. Similarly, even in the dynasty of Ruchi and Ruchi, you will see the Supreme Lord descending from. Okay. So he says, oh, holy sage, tell me about the worshipful Ruchi and Daksha. Both of them are the sons of Brahma. How they generated children after securing as their 2 wives, the other 2 daughters of Swayambhuva Manu, who are Akuti and Prasuti. So he's asked some questions about the different daughters, their dynasty. He's also asked questions about the sons and their dynasty. Okay. So now the focus goes on to Devahuti. She's the first one who he is very interested in. So they want to discuss about Mother Devahuti. So now he starts telling that actually this Kardama Prajapati, he performed austerities for 10,000 years. So that's why in one of the previous verses, he is described as Mahayogi. So you can imagine if a person is performing 10,000 years of austerities in devotion, that is the key point there. If he's performing austerities in devotion, what a great personality he must be. How much pleased the Lord must be. So there are 2 ways of performing austerity. One is dry austerities. The other is austerity in the mood of devotion. So this Kardama Prajapati for 10,000 years, he lived in the age of Satya Yuga. The verse specifically says he lived in the age of Satya Yuga and he performed yoga. So in the age of Satya Yuga, the lifespan is really long. So you have the facility for performing austerities for 10,000 years. But in this age of Kali, the lifespan is only maximum 100 years. So it is very difficult to perform such great austerities. So that is why chanting of the holy names is recommended. Just with one pure holy name, one can attain perfection. And we are seeing that. We are seeing that now in this movement, in this ISKCON movement, we are seeing this. The power of the holy names, how the power of the holy names has influenced so many different people, and how they are all attaining perfection in this very lifetime by the mercy of our Guru Parampara. Srila Prabhupada, again, he mentions in the purport that they had the facility, they had the time, they had the age, and they were able to perform 10,000 years of austerity. For us to perform even a little austerity, it is very distracting. So our solution is that we chant the holy names of the Lord. And he quotes many examples. He quotes the example of Valmiki Rishi. He also performed severe austerities for more than 60,000 years. However, in this age of Kali, it is only possible to attain perfection, mainly through the process of Harinam in the age of Kali. So Srila Prabhupada brings about that point again and again in all the purports. So this Kardama Prajapati, he worshipped the Lord very sincerely through devotion in trance. He was very, very devotional. This is called as Yoga Mishra Bhakti, because Bhakti is the focus. Sometimes if yoga itself is the focus, then it becomes Bhakti Mishra Yoga. But Srila Prabhupada says that any sort of yoga that is described in Shastra, like Patanjali Yoga Shastra and other places, it is never without devotion to Krishna. Devotion is always a major principle of any other process you may follow. You may follow the process of jnana, you may follow the process of Ashtanga Yoga, you may follow any process. But all these processes will definitely have devotion as an anga. So nothing can be completely independent of devotion, but devotion can be independent. Okay. So he continued to worship the Lord in devotion in a trance. Tavat prasanno bhagavan purushaksha krite yuge darshayam asatam kshattha sabdham brahma dadhatvapuhu. Because he was so devoted and he performed this wonderful austerities, in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can only be understood through the Vedas. Sabdham Brahma Dadat Vapu. So, as it is described in scripture, the Lord showed the form that is described in the Shabdam, in all the scriptures. Shabda Pramana, we say, right, through the Vedic literature. So whatever is described, the authentic forms of the Lord that is described in the Shastra was the form that was revealed. The Lord made himself shown to Kardama Prajapati. There are so many things in this one verse. We cannot demand the Lord to give us darshan. The Lord will show himself when he is pleased. See, it says very nicely, that lotus-eyed Supreme Lord, he decided to show himself because he was pleased with Kardama Muni. And he displayed his transcendental form. The form of the Lord is always eternal. There are some people, some so-called spiritualists, who say that depending on the desire and the imagination of the yogi, depending on what he imagines the form of the Lord to be, the Lord takes that form and shows that form. No, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that these forms are eternal, they are transcendental, they are described in Shabdam, they are described in scriptures. So as it is described in scripture, that particular form, that Vishnu form, the Lord revealed in front of Kardama Prajapati. And see, Prabhupada says, Kardama Muni did not discover any imaginary form of God as the alleged rascals. He actually saw the eternal, blissful, and transcendental form of the Lord. So imagine Kardama Prajapati seeing the Lord face to face. And this was only because he did devotion, austerities in the mode of devotion. Satam virajam Arkabham Sita Padmotpalasrajam Snigdha Neelalaka Vrata Bhaktrabjam Virajombaram. Kardamon Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How did he look? He was free from material contamination. He's transcendental, right? So here it says Virajam. Raja means some contamination, some dust, okay, some contamination. Viraja, he was completely free from all contamination. And how did he show? He showed his eternal form that was effulgent like the sun. Arkabham. Arka means sun. So his form was effulgent and it was like the sun. What was he wearing? He was wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. Padma, Padmotpala Srajam. Sraja means garland. So he was wearing this beautiful lotus garland of white lotuses. The Lord was clad in spotless yellow silk. His lotus face was fringed with slick dark locks of curly hair. Bhaktrabjam Virajo Ambaram. So he was again wearing spotless Ambaram. Ambaram as cloth, and his face was Neelalaka Vrata. So like bluish black locks of hair. So it must be reminding you of seeing the different forms of the Lord as Krishna, as Rama, all of them, they are described to have bluish black locks of hair. Sometimes the black hair is oiled nicely and it looks very shiny. It may appear somewhat bluish black. So you can imagine how the Lord's face is circled like you read in the Damodar Ashtakam, right? With those beautiful locks of curling hair. So like that, he saw the Lord who was looking resplendent. He had this wonderful darshan. What else is described in Bhagavatam? Kiritinam Kundalinam Shankachakra Gadadaram Shvetotpala Kiridankam Manasparsha Smitekshanam. Adorned with a crown and earrings. He was wearing Kiritam and Kundalam, Kirita Kundalam. He held his characteristic conch, disc, and mace in 3 of his hands and a white lily in the 4th. Shanka Chakra Gadadharam. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood. Smitekshanam. Smita means to smile. So you can imagine when the Lord gives darshan, the Lord is transcendentally very, very beautiful. He's always smiling and he's always happy. There is one verse in Srimad Bhagavatam when Ashwatthama releases the Brahmastra. At that time, in one verse, 2 of the personalities' reaction is described. In one part of the verse, it says that Arjuna was very angry and his eyes were bloodshot red. And Krishna was also there, but his eyes were like the eyes of a lotus flower. So Krishna is always transcendental. It doesn't matter. He's always happy. He's smiling. And his sight captivates the heart of all devotees. Of course, in that verse, it does say that Krishna was a little angry. But still, even though he was a little angry with Ashwatthama, his eyes were extremely beautiful. They were not scary. So he glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, whose sight captivates the heart of all devotees. So just by the Lord's glance, you can imagine how much purification is being brought out in the heart of Kardama Prajapati. That's why we say when we go and take darshan, we glance at the Lord and the Lord glances at us. That way, the contamination in our heart is all removed. Vinyatsa charanam bhojam amsha deshe garutmataha trishtva khe avasthitam vaksha shriyam kaustuba kandharam. The golden streak on the chest. This is all the description of the beauty of the Lord. We saw that so far, the Lord was looking very, very resplendent. He was wearing yellow garments. He had dark curling locks of hair. He was carrying his featured Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, and he glanced very, very happily. He was in a smiling mood. And what else did he have? He had the golden streak on his chest, which is also called as the Srivatsa mark. You see here it is mentioned as Shriyam. Shriyam is the abode of the goddess of fortune. He wore the famous Kaustuba gem, which is the representative of all the jivas. The pure spirit soul is represented by the Kaustuba gem. That's why if you go to Vaikuntha, in the story of Gopakumar and the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when he goes to Vaikuntha, he gets confused. because he sees that everybody has four-armed form, they have curling locks, they have kiritam, they have kundalam, they have everything. In fact, they even have shankh-chakram also. But then he goes and pays obeisances to everyone, thinking, oh, you're Narayan, you're Narayan, you're Narayan. And everybody is closing their ears and they're telling, no, 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 I am not Narayan. Then he finally gets to see the Lord. So one may ask, what is the distinguishing feature between the Lord and all of them who have attained Sarupya in Vaikuntha? The answer is only these two. One is the mark of Lakshmi, the golden streak, the Srivatsa, and the other is the Kaustubha. Why? Because these two completely belong to the Lord. Goddess of fortune belongs only to the Lord. And Kaustubha, this pure spirit soul, all of us, we all belong to the Lord, right? It is his energy. So he is the only one who can hold it. So he has the Srivatsa and the Kaustubha suspended from his neck. And he stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulders of Garuda. What a beautiful painting and what a beautiful scene this. This is how he looked. He was standing on top of Garuda. I don't know if my screen is blinking. He was standing on top of Garuda and he came in the sky. And Kardama Prajapati was looking at this beautiful scene. So as soon as Kardama saw the Supreme Lord come in front of him, what would be the first reaction anyone would have when they see the Lord face to face? Obviously, it would be paying obeisances to the Lord and glorifying the Lord. So this is the pattern that we have seen throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. The minute anybody has had darshan of the Supreme Lord, the first thing they do is pay their obeisances and sing beautiful prayers in glorification of the Lord. But however, in our conditioned state, we think the first thing we go and see the deity is to ask the deity, okay, give me this, give me that. I have this problem, I have that problem. It's all about us. It's about me in the focus. However, great devotees have shown by example, and it is for us to follow, looking at all these examples, that the minute we see the Lord, the first reaction that we should have is pay obeisances. So we pay obeisances and we do stuti, we glorify. Sometimes we may be very choked up, like Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was not able to glorify the Lord. He was a 5-year-old boy. It was so difficult. But then what did the Lord do? He placed his Panchajanya. So the minute, actually, Prabhupada says on his cheek, he placed the Panchajanya on his cheek, Kapolam. And some people say head, but I think it is cheek. And immediately he began to offer very, very beautiful prayers. So even to glorify the Lord, we need the Lord's mercy. Even to see, get the darshan of the Lord also, we need the Lord's mercy. Only the Lord decides he'll give his darshan. Similarly, once we pay obeisances, even if we want to glorify the Lord, that is also possible only if the Lord desires, if he empowers us to glorify him. So like this Kardama Prajapati, he immediately paid obeisances and he offered beautiful, beautiful prayers. And the perfection of his sight was fulfilled. That is what he says when he sees the Lord. Finally, the perfection of my eyes is fulfilled by getting your darshan. And again, Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about the process of Patanjali yoga. That is where we get the system of yoga. Today, it has all become very contaminated. People are asking us to perform yoga by thinking about a white light. There is nothing called as meditating on a white light. Patanjali very clearly says you should meditate on the four-arm form of the Lord. He doesn't tell you you can meditate on a white light or you can create a form in your mind and you can meditate. None of it. And sometimes borrowing some principles from Patanjali yoga system, the great so-called modern yogis today, they come up with doing yoga for different purposes.
I think Mataji got disconnected. She'll be joining back.
Yes.
I'm back. I'm so sorry. I got disconnected. I'm back. Sorry for holding you all. Okay. So we were talking about different yogis. What Prabhupada says that sometimes yogis, they perform yoga processes to attain different things, like maybe mystic perfections. They try to attain peace, and they say, okay, you'll attain bliss if you perform this yogic process, and so on. But then the entire process of Patanjali Yoga is to attain perfection by seeing the Lord. So now Kardama, he says that I have attained the perfection of my eyes by seeing you. Then Kardama Prajapati, he glorifies the Lord and he says, oh my Lord, your Lordship is the reservoir of all that can be understood by nomenclature of goodness. And by our experiencing you face to face, the perfection of sight has now been attained. So coming to the point of goodness, generally it is said that for our devotion to actually blossom very nicely, it is very important for us to first come to the platform of goodness. The platform of goodness is actually the stepping stone to advancing in Krishna consciousness. That's why we have been given certain regulations that we have to follow. Why? So that we can maintain ourselves in the platform of goodness. The minute we come to the platform of goodness, that is when realization of God can dawn. So Kardama says that you yourself are an embodiment of goodness. And for us to get and just by experiencing you face to face, seeing that beautiful form face to face, the perfection of my sight has been attained. So he feels very, very grateful to see the Lord, and he begins to glorify the Lord. He says, your lotus feet is actually the true vessel. Vessel meaning when you're in an ocean, a ship is a vessel, right? So Srimad Bhagavatam talks about this over and over in many places, that the lotus feet of the Lord is a suitable boat to cross this ocean. So similarly, Kardama Prajapati, he's also telling that your lotus feet are the true vessel for us to move across this mundane ocean of nescience. It is only possible if we take the shelter of your lotus feet. And we know this extension of the other verses that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Lord's lotus feet is the suitable boat. The favorable winds for the ship to move are the different devotional practices that we do. The captain of the ship is the guru. So you've heard about these verses, right? So Bhagavatam, it reinforces the same point in different ways. And we see that even great souls like Kardama Prajapati, they are also saying the same thing. So he says that only your lotus feet can actually take us out of this material world. But there are so many foolish people, and they are worshipping the lotus feet of random people just for some temporary pleasures. Huh? But however, my Lord, you're so kind that you're bestowing mercy even upon them. Sometimes people worship the Lord for material pleasures. Sometimes people worship the Lord just for the Lord's love. But the Lord is, however, very, very merciful. For whatever you may worship the Lord will actually help you. Even if we are, worst come worst case, there could be some people who may be going to other devatas, but still the other devatas and the Lord's ultimate goal or focus is to tune us in some way or the other and bring us back to him. So Kardama Prajapati is telling that sometimes we all, we get bewildered and we start worshipping the Lord for material benefits. But in spite of it, you are very merciful to them. He says, first he scolds the people who are going after material things. Now a question may be raised. That isn't Kardama Prajapati also performing austerities because he can beget progeny? Right? So he's first condemning the people who are worshipping the Lord and who are desiring to see the Lord because they want their material desires to be fulfilled. So now the Lord may ask, then why are you also worshipping me for the same reason, right? Because Kardama is also worshipping him for the same reason. He says, although that nothing material should be asked from you, I am desiring to marry a girl of like-mindedness. of a like disposition, a girl who would suit my nature. I want to marry such a person. I'm also like them. He's telling Kardama Prajapati. Just like how these people are behind you for material goals, even I am also behind you for material goals. And he says that, my Lord, actually, you are the master of all living entities. Everything is happening by your direction. You are forcing these things to happen. Why? It is because Kardama was bound by the words of Brahma, his father. That is the reason Kardama came to perform austerities. Now, who inspired Brahma to tell him to go and perform austerities? Ultimately, the Lord wants progeny to be created in this universe so that we can fulfill our desires, right? So ultimately, it's the Lord's plan. So the Lord has inspired Brahma. Brahma has given instructions to Kardama Prajapati. So Kardama Prajapati is performing austerities, and he's telling that I am desiring to have a wife so that I can execute the order of my father. I am also, in one sense, like those materialists, but I'm obeying the order of my father. But Prabhupada catches an important point here. He says that Kardama very clearly says, I want to marry a girl of like disposition. He doesn't say that, okay, I just want to just marry because, I just want to marry and enjoy. He doesn't say that. He says, I want to have a good relationship, like disposition, who can understand me and we both can serve you very nicely. So that is the focus. It is also mentioned that sometimes many of us don't even know what vows we take during marriage, right? The Saptapadi, the vows that we take. Actually, the final vow that we take when we get married is that we will search for the Supreme together. That is the last vow that we take. Actually, that is the most important one. We say, yes, we'll stay with each other, we will support each other, we'll do all that. All that is fine. But the most important goal of marriage is to attain, attain the lotus feet of the Lord together. That is the actual purpose of the marriage. So he says, I want to marry a girl of a like disposition. So Srila Prabhupada comments here, see, that is how a grihastha should be. That is the entire focus of marriage. So now he's telling, I have this desire. What can I do? My father wanted me to beget children. So it's the order of my father. And ultimately, you're in control. You're the one who's orchestrating everything. Then the Lord may ask, then why are you criticizing those who have material attachments? You're having an attachment. That's why you're asking. But you're saying, okay, it's my father's order. Then why are you criticizing others who are having material attachments? Now Kardama Prajapati gives all of us an instruction. He tells us the truth. He says, actually, it is the surrendered souls who are liberated. They are constantly hearing Krishna Katha. And because of the power of Krishna Katha, because of the power of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita that they are hearing and chanting, they are getting liberated from all these bodily afflictions. If a person is asking Krishna for something material, why are we asking something from Krishna, something material from Krishna? The reason is because we are suffering because of that bodily affliction, right? We are suffering. It's painful. So we are asking Krishna, okay, give me relief from this. Okay, you give me this. Let me be happy. That is what we are trying to ask Krishna. But a fully surrendered soul, who's fully liberated, because he's constantly hearing the glories of the Lord, because he's constantly chanting the holy names, because he's performing the 9 processes of devotional service, because he's in constant connection with Krishna, he becomes immune to these different bodily afflictions. That is the reason why these people, when they see Krishna, they don't even ask for any protection, anything material. Why? Because they are so immune to the whole process, the whole process of being attacked by the Adidaiva, Adibhautika, and Adhyatmika problems, kleshas of this material universe. So Kardama, he makes an analysis. He tells that, yeah, we are all afflicted, but, we are all, we have to be criticized. Anybody who is afflicted should be criticized. But it is the surrendered souls who are liberated, and they are doing the right thing. In fact, he says that the wheel of time doesn't affect these devotees. What does the wheel of time do? Time is deteriorating everything. With every minute, we are changing. We are a second closer to death. We have more and more problems in life. But the wheel of time does not affect the devotees. And the wheel of time is very beautifully described in this verse. It says that the wheel of time has 13 months as spokes. Quiz question for everyone. Why is it 13 months? Don't we have 12 months? Anybody? And you should take this guess because it is in this month.
Is it because of the Adhika Mas, Mataji?
You're right. And here comes the purport that talks about the Purushottam month. So the wheel of time has 13 months because it includes the Adhik Mas, it includes the Purushottam month. It has 360 days as joints, 6 seasons as the rim. We know that in India we have 6 seasons, right? According to the Vedic tradition, we have 6 seasons. And then 3 groups of 4 months as the name moving the velocity of this wheel. So this is the power of Krishna's time. Time I am, Krishna says, and this is his wheel. Okay. So Kardama is telling this wheel of time is not affecting the devotees. And he says, actually, you alone are the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the world. Everything is under your control. If you desire, you will bring forth this creation, you will maintain it, and you will destroy it. How do you do that? You do it like the spider. This verse about the spider creating, this analogy of the spider creating a web from its mouth and then withdrawing the web back into itself. This is mentioned at least, I think, in 5 or 6 places in Srimad Bhagavatam alone. The same analogy in different cantos, in different conversations. It's a very famous analogy, this one. So how the spider creates its web. The spider itself, from its own body, from its saliva, it spins a web. It's all its hard work, right? But once it is done, maybe it's some seasonal change and it wants to move place, immediately it withdraws everything into its mouth. So it plays there for some time and then it withdraws it as it likes. Similarly, Kardama is telling, oh my Lord, you're also like that. You are the independent creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the world. And you maintain this creation. Yes, as Leela, we all agree, but actually for whom? The Lord is actually doing this entire creation for our sensual satisfaction. That's why we are going to the Lord and asking him, right? Okay, satisfy this this pleasure of mine, satisfy this desire of mine. I have this problem, I have that problem. So the Lord knows very well that this jiva needs a body, he needs a place to live, and he needs a place to lord it over. So he's telling, Kardama is telling, yes, you are the independent creator, maintainer, and destroyer. But truly, and you're creating for Leela, all that is fine. But the truth is that you're doing this creation for our own sensual satisfaction. So Kardama is telling, so my dear Lord, this is my desire, that I should have a wife and we should actually create useful progeny, some nice progeny. And then the Lord was bestowing his causeless mercy on Kardama Prajapati. He was very happy with the way Kardama was talking to him, and he was shining in his appearance. He was decorated with tulasi leaves. He was looking very beautiful. And he saw that Kardama Prajapati was addressing so sincerely, so sincerely. So he smiled and he began to speak with affection. So Krishna, when he smiles, it has so many meanings. So now he speaks with great affection. What does he say? The Lord desires to fulfill Kardama's desire. He smiles and he says, actually, your desire is already fulfilled. You didn't even have to ask me. It is already fulfilled because the Lord never disappoints a sincere devotee. He's ready to fulfill everything that a sincere devotee is asking, provided it is in alignment with devotional service. If the true intention is devotional service, if the true intention is devotion, the Lord will not disappoint a devotee. That is what Prabhupada says in the purport. So he says, your desire is already fulfilled. Even before you asked it, I fulfilled your desire, like Sudama, right? When Sudama went to see Krishna, he didn't even ask. But Krishna knew what is in the heart of Sudama, and Krishna saw the sincerity of Sudama and the devotion of Sudama. Sudama was so ashamed to ask anything. He didn't open his mouth, but Krishna already fulfilled his desire. Similarly, Kardama Prajapati, seeing his sincerity, his desire to execute his father's order and be useful, he immediately said that your desire is already fulfilled. And he says, actually, I fulfill the desires of people like you who are very, very sincere in devotion. Anyone who is very, very sincere in devotion and trying to do something for the Lord, their efforts are never frustrated. And he said, very soon, Swayambhuva Manu, who is the king of this entire land, along with his wife Shatarupa, they are ruling Brahmavarta. This Brahmavarta and the purport is identified to be the region of Kurukshetra, which was the central place of performing yajnas and other great activities. So it was almost like the capital of the world. Okay, so Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa, they were ruling this area. So he says that very soon, Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa will be coming here and they will bring their daughter. So who is their daughter? Their daughter is Devahuti. Now in the purport, besides identifying Brahmavarta with the Kurukshetra area, it is also mentioned that Brahmavarta is there in one of the higher planetary systems. There is no need to have any conflict, both could be correct. Okay. So they will come, husband and wife will come with their daughter. Their daughter is extremely beautiful, dark-eyed girl with curly hair. She's extremely beautiful and she will be the perfect person for you. Her disposition will be like yours and very, very suitable for you. What did Kardama ask? He wanted a girl, not just a beautiful girl or a girl from a great family or something. He wanted a girl who has a proper disposition because he wanted to live with her for a long time and be useful. So he says her disposition will be very much like yours and she will be suitable for you. And the Lord also predicts that she will beget 9 daughters. And these 9 daughters, again, they will beget further more children and the population will increase. And he says, now that you have taken my darshan, your heart is completely cleansed. Remember, we saw this some time back. When you take darshan of the Lord, immediately the heart gets cleansed. So, because the Lord is seeing you. When the Lord glances at something, how can it be impure? It automatically gets pure. So he says, your heart is now cleansed. You're doing, and you will continue to do all your activities. Yes, you will be married, you will have children, you will have responsibilities, but you have seen me. So you will continue to do all your activities thinking of me and you will soon come to me. So the Lord gives the boon right there that you will not get bewildered. You will attain perfection and you will come to me in spite of executing your duties. And he says that you will continue to show compassion to all the householders because you yourself will be a householder and you will bestow fearlessness to the sannyasis. He says to the other people like the sannyasis, the other orders. Why? Because the sannyasis and generally the sannyasis, the brahmacharis and the vanaprasthas, everybody, they are maintained by the householders. The householders are, they have to be very responsible because they are maintaining the other ashram. So he says you will maintain them very nicely. You will bestow fearlessness, and you will see yourself in the universe, and the universes. I mean, you'll see me in you, and yourself in the universe. What does yourself in me? Sorry, what does that mean? It means again, Prabhupada writes in the purport that it means that he will be able to understand Karnodakshay Vishnu, and he'll be able to understand the Paramatma. Karnodakshay Vishnu, who is the creator of everything, and he will also be able to understand the Paramatma, who's Kshirodakshay Vishnu. So he'll have all the realization. And finally, he gives him a special bonus. He says, not only that, I myself will incarnate as your son Kapila Dev. I will become your son and I will teach the Tattva Samhita as my plenary portion. Tattva Samhita is actually what Kapila finally teaches. He teaches the analysis of the different elements, right? Samkhya Yoga. So that is also called as Tattva Samhita. So he says, I will come and I'll give you the science of the ultimate principles of all categories of different things that exist in this universe. So he gives all these points, and then the Lord departed from that place, which was encircled with the Saraswati River. Actually, it was a pond that was encircled with the Saraswati River. You see the picture, you'll see a pond here, and you see the Supreme Lord is descending here, and you see this Kardama Prajapati is meditating here, right? This place came to be known as Bindu Sarovar because it was so beautiful that the Lord was choked up with affection for Kardama. Because Kardama Prajapati had so much love for the Lord and he was performing these austerities and he exhibited his love for the Lord. So the Lord reciprocates, the Lord is a person. So he had so much affection for Kardama, he choked up and tears of affection came down his cheeks and that formed a sarovar. So it is called as Bindu Sarovar. Tears of love that the Lord shed for the sake of his devotee Kardama. And it is also called as Shivamrita. Shivamrita means it is all auspicious and it is like nectar. Anyone who drinks this water can be relieved from material miseries. So this Bindu Sarovar is present here near the Saraswati River. And lot of this place was very, very beautiful, very beautiful. It is described that this place was surrounded with wonderful trees that were bearing fruits, with beautiful birds, animals, and it were bees and so many other nice natural beauty of this universe. It was completely looking very, very beautiful. And Kardama Prajapati was waiting on the banks of this place to see Swayambhuva Manu arrive there, because the Lord told him Swayambhuva Manu will soon arrive with his daughter, right? So he was waiting here. And the Lord, of course, he returns back to Vaikuntha, accompanied by the chants of Samaveda, vibrated by the flapping of the wings of Garuda. This verse is very famous actually in the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada writes there that actually the wings of Garuda, actually Garuda is called as Virgeshwara. He's called as he himself is the essence of the Vedas, especially the Samaveda. Garuda is actually a very important personality. He's an eternal associate of the Lord. And when he flaps his wings, the Samaveda can be heard. Why Samaveda, especially when Krishna says, I am the Samaveda? Samaveda is very, very musical. Like you have the four Vedas, each of these four Vedas, Rik, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Vedas, they are chanted in different ways. Especially Samaveda has mantras which are set to music. It's a very musical way of saying the mantra. So Krishna says, I am fond of music, so I like Samaganam. So Garuda's wings are also, when they vibrate, they actually resonate with the Samaveda. And Prabhupada says that the essence of all the Samavedas is chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So which means when Garuda was flapping his wings, everyone must have heard the Hare Krishna mantra. So like this, vibrating his wings with the chants of the Samaveda, the Lord went back to Vaikuntha. Now our Kardama Prajapati, he waited here. He waited in this beautiful place. What did we tell about this place? It was extremely beautiful. It had lovely gardens and fruit-bearing trees. The verse says that it was filled with pious trees. Pious and impious, right? One pious tree, Prabhupada specifically writes, fruit-bearing trees, fruits and flowers. When useful trees are there, they are called as pious. Otherwise, it is called Papa Yoni. It is all Papa Yoni. If it is not giving you fruits and flowers, we see in this country, 99% cover is all only pollen-related trees. We don't get fruits and flowers. It is just a huge, vast land of Papa Yoni. That's all. So Prabhupada says that any tree that gives fruit and flower is considered pious. So this land, it was filled with all fruit and tree-bearing trees. And he says about different birds also. Some of the birds are considered pious, some are not considered pious. Unfortunately or fortunately, however we want to take it, crows, he says in the purport, are not considered pious. So like that, different kinds of pious trees, pious animals, pious fruits, everything was there, pious birds. And he mentions, the Bhagavatam mentions the list of the different trees, the different birds and the different bumblebees and everything that was present there. A huge list of names are given. And Prabhupada gives the English equivalent of the different fruits and the birds and all of that that is there. Actually, I remember he even spoke about the different animals, in that he talks about a particular cow from whose tail, it has a bushy tail from which the chamara is made. So like we say yak tail, yeah, but Prabhupada says it's a variety of bovine. Um, from where we get this tale. That so many description of different birds and animals are given in the purport. So he waited there in that very, very beautiful place. And what was he waiting for? He was waiting for the arrival of Manu, Shatarupa, and their daughter Devabhuti. So he continued to perform his duties. Obviously, he's at this point, Prabhupada says he's a brahmachari and he has duties to perform. He has to give oblations in the fire. So Kardama, he was pouring oblations in the sacred fire and he was performing his duty. How was his body? His body was resplendent, it was shining. Though he was performing great austerities, he did not look emaciated. He did not look emaciated because of the spiritual sadhana that he was doing, because of the spiritual potency that he had developed. He did not look very dull. So even if a person is very lean and thin and not eaten for a long time, if they are a great devotee, you can see the aura, you can see the energy of that person, right? The entire place is filled with a lot of positive energy. So he did not look emaciated because of why? Because of the glance of the Lord. So of course he was doing sadhana, everything. But the highlight there is because of the glance of the Lord. The Lord had blessed him. Okay. Once the glance of the Lord had fallen on him, his heart had become purified. He became resplendent, irrespective of what austerities he was doing. It mentions that he had a tall body, lotus-like eyes, his hair was matted, and he was wearing a tattered cloth. So he was dirty outside, meaning he was soiled, everything was soiled because he was performing austerities. So he looked like an unpolished gem. In Ramayana, Mother Sita, that's how she is described. She is described when she was in that Ashoka Vatika, where Ravana had kept her. It's described she was like fire covered by smoke. She was completely tattered and her cloth was all dirty and she was looking like an unpolished gem. Similar comparisons are given in the Valmiki Ramayana as well. So he looked very, very soiled, like an unpolished gem, but inside the Brahma Tejas was very, very evident. And Manu and Shatarupa, they came to that place. The minute Manu saw Kardama Prajapati, he bowed down. Because why? The Varna and the Ashrama system is described in the purports for those 3-4 verses that you all know, of course, the different Varnas and Ashramas. We have the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and you have Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi, the Varnas and Ashram. When you look at the Varnas, the Brahmanas are considered the most important or the senior most in the Varnas. Now here is Kardama Prajapati, who is a Brahmana. The one who has come to see him is Manu. Manu is a Kshatriya, right? So who has to actually pay respect to whom? It is Manu who will be paying respects to Kardama Prajapati. Seeing Manu going down, immediately Kardama Prajapati saw him and he received him with due honor. So in those days and in that day and time, the great kings, they would go to the forest in search of great rishis because they wanted to learn from these great sages and they would offer them great respects and they would be very subservient to the Brahmanical class or to the sages. So this great king, when he went there, this great king who had conquered many lands, he goes about conquering different places. He came there and he paid his obeisances to Kardama. Kardama received him with due honor. And Manu was silent. He didn't want to start the conversation. He was very silent. And Kardama, he thought about the Lord's words. Yes, the Lord did mention that Manu will come here with his daughter. So looks like the time has come. So thinking about the Lord's words, now Kardama begins to talk. So that's why this chapter is called as a conversation between Manu and Kardama, right? So now Kardama Prajapati, he begins to talk. He tells the king, oh dear king, thank you so much for coming here. You embody the protective energy of Lord Hari. This is interesting because a person who has the Lokapalaka Shakti, the one who maintains this entire world, should be empowered by the Lord. A king, a real king who can maintain this entire world, should be empowered by Lord Hari. So he says, you're embodying the protective energy of Lord Hari, and you protect the virtuous and you punish the demoniac. Just like in Canto 1, we saw the great prowess of Parikshit Maharaj. What a great king he was, like that. So you embody this protective energy. And he says that you, being the king, you exhibit the role of all the three demigods. Like the sun, you show your majesty. Like fire, you show invincibility. Like Indra, you show your lordship. Like Vayu, you can enter everywhere. Like Yama, you can punish the sinful. Like Dharma, you protect the righteous. And Varuna, you are very deep and you have the hidden treasure. Like the sun, you go around the earth with your chariot. Otherwise, if you don't go around this world, monitoring everything in this world, if you don't move around with your chariot, actually this Varnashram system cannot be protected. It will be destroyed by rogue. So you are the embodiment of all the demigods, like the sun, the fire, Vayu, Yama, Dharma, Varuna, everything. One person. In that king, all the demigods reside. Right? You have heard about this also. The king is a representation of all the demigods. So he says, you're such an important personality. And like the sun, with your chariot, you're going everywhere. Just like how the sun with a single wheel chariot, it is going around this universe. Similarly, you are going around everywhere and you're chastising the unrighteous and protecting the virtuous. So when you have so many things to do, you're an important personality. Why did you come here? Why did you come to see me? And I'm ready to do anything. Tell me how I can help you. I can carry out your request without any reservation. So again, it is the etiquette. It is the etiquette for the Brahmana to tell the Kshatriya should go and worship the Brahmana and then offer what he wants, and the Brahmana should accept it. And the Brahmana in turn will give something in return. Like what does a Brahmana give in return? He gives good advice. He gives good counsel in return. He tells the king how to worship the Lord. Generally, that's the etiquette. So out of proper etiquette, this Manu, he comes and he pays his obeisances and he hears from Kardama. Now, another thing Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport is about marriages. Srila Prabhupada says that it was not inappropriate for Kardama Prajapati to give his daughter, to take Manu's daughter Devahuti in hand for marriage. Okay, because Devahuti was a Kshatriya and Kardama was a Brahmana. For a Brahmana to have a Kshatriya wife, it is okay. Okay, according to the marriage rules, codes of marriage. However, for a Brahmana girl to have a Kshatriya husband is not appropriate. This happens in the story of Yayati and Devayani. So we'll see that later in the 9th canto, when Yayati actually, he hesitates to take the hand of Devayani because it is against religious code. So anyway, Prabhupada clarifies that, and he says it was perfectly fine for Kardama to actually marry Devahuti. So however, we stop this chapter with his question. Why have you come here? Whatever it may be, I will carry out your request without reservation. So both of them were following the general etiquette. At this point, Kardama didn't say, okay, I want to marry your daughter. That is not proper etiquette. So he waited for this Manu to actually ask for Kardama Prajapati's hand for his daughter. So we'll end here. That's the last verse. If you have any questions, comments, or realization, you can take that. Thank you all so much for your attention. And I'm glad we finished on time. Very good.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah, go ahead, Indu Mataji.
No, it was me, Sukha. You go ahead, Vinita, baby.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji, for such a beautiful class. Very detailedly explained about how the marriage system is like. Ultimately, we do for the devotional service, both wife and husband together perform a devotional service. And I really like the conversation between the Lord and Kardama, how detailedly he was talking, and that analogy of the spider web to compare to the Lord, how Lord also creates, and
That's so good.
it's very, very nice, Mataji, to detailedly explained. Thank you so much, Mataji, for such a beautiful class. Yeah.
I really like the spider web example. It's really good, Mataji, and I really like the class.
If Vasishta gives approval, what more do I need? Tell me.
Thank you, Mataji, for the beautiful class. Yes, Sukasagri Mataji, please go ahead.
Hey, Krishna, Preeti. Dandavat Pranam. Such a nice class. I mean, I could hear only the last few minutes, like 10 minutes, but it was, I kind of understood when you were summarizing the theme about the marriage. I was also wondering, the example of Roma Harshana Sutta came to my mind. So he also has that mixed family background, right? Lineage. So would you like to comment on that?
Roma Harshana Sutta. He's the Roma Harsh.
Sutta.
Yeah.
Yeah, his father, I think, was, I'm not very sure, but I think father was Kshatriya and mother was like from a Brahminical background.
Yeah, I forget the names of who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it is mentioned, yes. He was of that mixed, the wrong Pratilom and Aniloma. What do you call that? One is Pratilom, one is Anilom marriage. So
Yeah, I think it was Pratilom or something
Pratilom
like
is
that.
the one that is not correct, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't recall too well, but I'm thinking yes.
Yes, Roma Harshan Sutta. That's why he was Sutta. Yeah, I think in the
Mhm.
book also Prabhupada comments, but I don't know I'm not recollecting the parents' names at all.
Oh, okay.
Because I think in the first canto, Vyasa, when he divides the different things, it's that he gives the Purana to Roma Harshana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
later, Sita, right? That is
Yeah,
where,
like Roma Harshana, he offends Lord Balram, right? He doesn't
yeah,
give him the
and that is
respect. Uh-huh.
the purpose they say that, because he was of this improper mixing, he didn't have the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out, Mataji. There somewhere in some scripture it will be there.
Sure. Thanks so much, Preeti. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Siksakri.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. What an amazing session, Mataji. It just really flew. And when I just started reading the chapter a little bit today, I didn't know exactly how you're going to present it, but it's just so lovely, so beautiful to see what the Lord looks like and the way you were explaining the place Bindu Sarovar. So does that exist here, like in India, or okay? Yes.
Yeah, the river
Even-
Saraswati, near the river Saraswati.
But there is no river Saraswati right now.
She's Antarvahini. In some places she flows right also, no? In Prayag and all she comes up. And then in the she's mostly Antarvahini.
Mhm. Yeah, very beautiful. This is explanation, Mataji. It was wonderful to also hear about the spider analogy. And so at the end, the spider, it just retracts the entire web. Was that how you were saying that it goes back into its mouth?
That's what they say when they give the analogy. Yeah.
But around we
There
see
is
so
some
many
other
cobwebs.
analogy which also talks about the living entity gets stuck like web, like a spider in the web, right? But this is the first time I'm hearing the other one, which is compared to Supreme Lord. I always heard to compare to a living entity how they get stuck in the web of like spider gets stuck in the web, right? I don't know if I am right or wrong. I heard that way, and now I'm hearing this one. Is that one is there, Mataji, or no? Did I understood wrong way?
That is our understanding, but the verses of Bhagavatam, at least in 4 or 5 verses, they talk about the same thing, that how the spider spins the web. So I can pull out all the verses. Spider, web. I can look up Vani quotes and pull out all the verses what Prabhupada has given.
This
Yeah.
is in reference to the creation process, Preeti? Yeah, that's a common analogy, like the spider web, how it retracts.
Like creation, maintenance, and destruction, everything happens by the Supreme Lord's will. So that's how the Mataji was explaining that spider analogy. Like
Yeah, I think I've heard that like quite a few times. It's in a verse, right? It's actually a verse quoted in Srimad Bhagavatam.
There are about 6 verses in Srimad
Yeah.
Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam from 1st canto to 11th canto. In one of our camp sessions also for the kids, we did all the 6 verses.
Mm-hmm.
Is there everywhere? And 2nd canto, 255, 29, 28, 3, 21, 19, 4, 6, 43, 11, 7 to 35, 11, 9, 21. So throughout Bhagavatam it is there. It not one place. Even Chaitanya.
That's what like Vinita Mataji was asking about. Sorry for interrupting, actually. So are there 2 analogies? That's what Mataji.
I don't know about the other one. The other one, understanding we get stuck. That's all. But that is an addition. But Bhagavatam specifically only talks about spider, means it talks about the Lord.
Preeti, what was the other verses? You said 255 is like the most commonly I've heard. What were the other ones, Preeti?
2, 9, 28. We had actually slides on all these verses. 321. I'll give you the Mataji. I'll just give you Vani quotes, Mataji. Vani quotes has everything. But then again, Chaitanya, there are so many. So you'll find where it is there. Every canto, there's yes, Mataji. And yeah, the spider getting stuck is our understanding. Of course, yes, we get stuck, right? So it's our understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, it also referred in different ways, right? Each of the verses, like the aspect is also very beautifully
For example, in some places the focus is the spiders, but like for example, this particular verse, 321:19, Prabhupada point that the spider is not impersonal. It is a creature. From its mouth, something is coming and something is going back into its mouth. So it does not personal. Similarly, the creation and manifestation of the material of spiritual energy does not render the creator impersonal. So we should think that because everything has come, somebody impersonal has created this manifestation. Just like how the spider has created the web, spider is a creature. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is a personality who has created this world. So the focus here is a little different. Like that, every verse and the purport has a different focus. Like in 29:20, it's all about energy. So it says, "Oh Lord, you are like a spider that covers itself by its own energy." So every aspect may vary, but the analogy is ditto everywhere. 255. 11th canto, one analogy is very, very famous. Yeah, 11:9:21. Just as from within itself, this is the one that I heard first when I was reading, like, this is the first thing I held on to. This is 11:9:21. Just as from within itself, the spider expands, thread through his mouth, plays with it for some time, and eventually swallows it. Answer to Indu's question. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead expands his personal potency from within himself. Thus, the Lord displays the network of cosmic manifestation, utilizes it according to his own purpose, and eventually withdraws it completely within himself. Again, 11:21:38:40. Just as how a spider brings forth from his heart the web and emits it through his mouth, the Supreme Lord himself, as the primeval vital air comprising of Vedic meters, full of transcendental pleasure, creates this. Like that.
Yeah, so nice. Yeah, I mean, at least the most common one I had heard was the 2nd canto one, like the 2.5.5. I think they also asked this in Bhakti Vaibhav course or something. Yeah, if I remember vaguely.
Right. Even we had this in our Bhakti Vaibhav, this verse. Yeah. And Chaitanya Charitamrita 6, 14, 15. Actually, many places. Chaitanya Charitamrita 3, 4 places.
Yeah, so nice.
Yes,
Thank you so
Mat-
much,
Thank
Preeti.
you so much for taking time actually to open them up and see what they are actually referring to. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna Mataji.
Mataji.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you very much for the class. As usual, it was very enlightening. And thank you for again reminding that Arjuna and Krishna's lotus eyes and red eyes.
Yeah, we were doing in this session, right? Yes, I remember. That session was
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah,
Hare
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for a wonderful class, Mataji. I really liked it because you were very good at storytelling. It's a nice narrative way also you told, and also drawn out the practical applications for our life as practicing devotees also. Very nice, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Prabhu, I really liked your notes that you had put for all these verses. So I was just thinking how deeply you study.
Oh no, Mataji.
It really helped me. It helped me understand things better. Yeah, thank
No, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
you. Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Yeah, I wasn't there for the earlier part, but then I remember this class, this when we took with Govinda kids.
Yeah.
It's
We did
it's
it at camp, right? Yeah. The
yeah. So then
2020 COVID camp.
right, and yeah, it's really tricky how like what all to explain in this as the chapters go ahead also. But then it's wonderful to hear it in a very nice with the analogies. So thank you, Mataji. Thank you for this wonderful class. I'll again go back with the initial part again.
Thank you, Sita Preethi Mataji, for joining all the way from India in spite of having a million things to do. Thank you, Mataji.
Haribol Mataji. Thank you. Thank you. It's same goes to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I have one more question, Mataji. Behind you, 9.27. How did you stick that?
You read
Yeah.
it, Mataji.
Yatarosi Yadasrasi Yajiosi Daradi Yatabasadi Gadaya Tadguru Prabhadarshanam. I like that. I wish I had.
Arpana.
Arpanam.
Wish I had.
Yeah, we will also have it, Mataji. Like,
Yeah, I wish
no.
we put like this one like 50 chapter on the whole wall.
You want
Yeah,
to have
that's-
a full wall of 15th chapter? Amazing. So I'll send you a link. It's called, I mean, for everybody's benefit, it's called Wall Decal, DECAL. You can go to Amazon and you can search Wall Decal. And I think it's very cheap. It's not very expensive. Like these are 5 lines, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Bhagavad Gita, 5th line. For 5 lines is around 35 bucks or something. One line should be $11 like that. So you can type out the lines you want. It's custom made. You can choose any words. I put this because it's a dining room. That's why I put this. Otherwise, if it was a different room, I would have put something else. But I put this more, it's more karma Mishra Bhakti, right? Like a lot of karma because it's dining area, we're eating and all. So that's why I put it. But you can choose all surrender verses. And you can put highlighted verses from Bhagavatam. And
You could also put Patram Pushpam here.
yeah, I could have put Patram Pushpam, but somehow I thought, let's do this.
And Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutam.
That would have been, so much to ask you. Yes, that would have been beautiful. Yeah, as you're
Put on
eating,
the other wall, Preeti.
yeah. Have this Gopu's eating.
Oh, is the gopher. Mm.
No, he's not eating, he's being bullied. They're not even feeding him, they're giving him a flower. They're cheating him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a painting, right, of all the wall balls, like the eating.
Yeah, that is normal, but I wanted the bullying one. It's nice. It's nice to. He cheats us, so we also cheat him once in a while. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, Mataji, for beautiful class, and thank you for sharing this one. We will also get it for our houses. Very good. I think it won't damage the wall, right? When you remove it off.
Ganesh Mataji, it's permanent. You can't take it out. It's that is
Oh, we
one.
can't take it. That is only one problem. Okay.
wall will be fully damaged.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
actually, the previous owners, they had a Bible verse about eating, sharing love and all that. So looking at that only, I chose this one. But you can't remove that verse anymore. So I put a picture over it.
Oh,
Yeah, I've seen that behind you. I saw like last time when you were giving the class, there was the verse. I think you were giving Chaitanya Bhagavat class.
And it had
Okay.
Amen.
Yeah, it's
I
an
mean,
Amen. Yeah, I was saying that in the back.
yes, so I covered it with a picture. But that was a beautiful verse as well. So beautiful. And that was the inspiration for the Karoshi.
very nice, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anybody having any more questions? We have some chat realizations too.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, All Guru Shri Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, I'm sorry I could not join early because I was in another class learning Bhagavad Gita verses. So I'll go back and listen the whole recording. And I was listening to the conversation about the spider web and all. I could understand like what you are explaining. And hopefully after listening to the recording, I will get to know more about this session, Mataji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, once again for the beautiful session. We will close the call here. I would like to offer my obeisances to Mataji. Vancha kalpatarupyasya kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, और Great Preethi Vilasini Mataji ki jai. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Mataji. Hare
all.
Krishna.
We're all closing the call. We'll meet next week with another chapter.